Former Attorney General Pam Bondi was in the hot seat on Capitol Hill today, facing questions about the Epstein files. She testified behind closed doors before the House Oversight Committee about her handling of millions of documents surrounding late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Bondi defended the delayed release of the files, saying it was a, quote, enormously complicated and labor-intensive process. Today, Democrats said she didn't give many answers.
Every single one of our questions got one of three responses. One, not to my recollection, or I don't know. Number two, talk with Todd Blanche. I don't know anything about it. And number three, I am not talking about Donald Trump.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins me now from Capitol Hill. So Nikole, Bondi's testimony was not under oath. It was not videotaped. What did she tell lawmakers, and how did she react to some of the tough questioning?
Yeah, that's right. Well, keep in mind that's in part because you'll recall that Democrats in particular forced a subpoena and Republicans on the then Attorney General Pam Bondi. But once she was ousted by President Trump, that subpoena was no longer enforceable. So that's why she appeared for this transcribed voluntary interview today, which, as you pointed out, was not under oath and not videotaped, which is something that Democrats had been pushing for. But according to her opening statement, we heard many of the same arguments that Bondi made earlier this year to the House Judiciary Committee, in that she said that this was a really large task in terms of trying to produce the files, and that the department did the best of its ability to try to produce as many files in compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Of course, that law that was passed by Congress forcing the release of some of the files. Obviously, the Department of Justice hasn't released all of them just yet. That is something that some lawmakers did press Bondi on, but a real source of frustration for many Democrats in particular, as they felt that in many cases Bondi simply deferred to Blanche on a lot of this instead of explaining the broader process in terms of what happened, why victims' names weren't redacted, and other kind of botched instances where these files, in their view, were mishandled. Republicans, for their part, though, say that this was an opportunity for Bondi to answer questions and to try to be transparent about this process. Of course, many of the Epstein survivors also on hand as Bondi appeared here on the Hill today.
What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a tense and emotional process for many of them, because you'll recall many of them were here back in February when Bondi testified before the House Judiciary Committee. And of course, that was an open public hearing. This, as you pointed out earlier, was behind closed doors. So, you know, it's frustrating from the standpoint of many of these survivors still feel like they're not getting the answers that they would like. I talked to one survivor in particular who, again, pointed out this issue of victims' names who weren't redacted and some of the issues that has caused them by exposing their names. But also there was this issue of an apology. Of course, many of those survivors felt slighted when Bondi was on the Hill earlier this year, and they felt that they didn't get an apology from the Attorney General, that she wouldn't even look in their direction, and they felt a similar sentiment today. Take a listen to what one survivor told me.
You can't just turn around and apologize for something that has happened to us in the past. You can't apologize to the fact that you failed to do your job, which was protect our names and our information. It's something so simple. So I don't know how to feel about this when somebody walks down the hallway and completely ignores us and is flickering her hair and seems like, again, she is just dehumanizing us.
So again, when Bondi arrived here on Capitol Hill, some of those survivors did confront her and said, tell the truth. They also confronted the House Oversight Chair, James Comer, and asked him to get more of an explanation about some of those redactions, why some victims' names weren't redacted in the release of these files. He thanked them for being there and said that he would try to address some of their questions in today's interview.
Nikole Killion, thank you.